There's a malevolence that lurks in the shadows. And then there's a darkness so profound it is the shadows. An entity that seeps into the cracks of the world, feeding, spreading, biding its time to consume everything. This isn't a ghost story. It's not some urban legend. This is about a place where the earth itself became a predator, and it's not done feeding. Welcome to Blackvale Farm. Welcome to the beginning of the end. It started as desperation. The Blackvale family wasn't special. They were just like anyone else, struggling to survive. But they made a grave mistake. They thought they could strike a deal with something that doesn't bargain. Ezekiel Crow wasn't a man of God. He was a vessel, a rotting, grinning corpse filled with something ancient and malevolent. He offered salvation, but the words he spoke weren't prayers. They were incantations, summoning. That first harvest, it wasn't food. The crops weren't just growing, they were infested. Black tendrils snaked through the corn, wrapping around anything living, dragging it under. Animals, people, it didn't matter. And the screams, they never ceased. The farm didn't just consume, it changed. Witnesses talked about corn that bled when you snapped a stalk, about soil that oozed something thick and warm, about trees that groaned like they were in pain. One farmer who wandered too close swore he saw a face in the bark of an oak tree, a human face, its mouth frozen in a silent scream. And then there was the barn. They said it was the heart of the farm, but it wasn't built. It grew. The walls pulsed like veins, and if you listened closely, you could hear it breathing. The Blackvales weren't the only ones feeding the farm. Every year, children from neighboring towns went missing. The ones who came back weren't the same. Their eyes were hollow, their skin stretched too tight over their bones. They didn't speak, didn't cry, they just stared. And then, one by one, they disappeared again, leaving behind only piles of wet black dirt where they had been standing. I went to Blackvale Farm last night. The stories didn't prepare me for what I saw. The air was thick and suffocating, like it was pressing against my skin. The ground was soft, almost pulsing, and it left black stains on my boots. The barn was waiting. Its doors swung open as I approached, groaning like a living thing. Inside, the smell hit me first, sweet, rancid, and overwhelming. The trap door was already open as if it knew I was coming. I climbed down, flashlight trembling in my hand, into the darkness. The pit wasn't just a hole, it was alive. The walls were lined with flesh, veined and pulsing, and the roots, they moved. They twisted toward me, dripping with black tar that hissed when it hit the ground. In the center of the pit was it. It wasn't a creature. It wasn't even alive. Not the way we understand life. It was a mass of twisting, writhing roots and flesh, mouths opening and closing at random, whispering words that weren't meant for human ears. The faces, oh God, the faces, hundreds of them pressing against its surface, their eyes wide with terror, their mouths frozen in screams. Some of them looked fresh, like they'd been taken hours ago. Others were ancient, their skin stretched and cracking like old parchment, and then it saw me. The whispers turned into screams, filling my head with images I can't unsee. Fields drenched in blood, bodies being torn apart, their flesh absorbed into the ground. Villages, cities, entire civilizations collapsing into the earth as it devoured them. The earth isn't alive. It's a predator. And Blackvale Farm? It's just one of its mouths. The thing in the pit reached for me. Its roots moved like fingers wrapping around my legs, pulling me closer. My flashlight flickered, and for a moment, I saw what was beneath the flesh. An endless void, a churning abyss filled with writhing shapes, screaming faces, and something vast watching from the dark. It didn't want to kill me. It wanted to use me, to hollow me out and make me part of it. I don't remember how I got out. One moment, I was in the pit, staring into the void. The next, I was running through the fields, the corn slicing at my skin like knives. The screams followed me. They weren't coming from the barn or the pit. They were coming from the ground beneath my feet, from the stalks brushing against my face, from the air itself. When I reached my car, I looked back. The barn was gone. The fields were shifting, moving, like they were alive. And in the distance, I saw them. The figures, pale and stretched, standing at the edge of the corn, watching me. Their mouths were open, but no sound came out. The midnight harvest isn't over. It never was. The earth doesn't forget, and it doesn't forgive. Whatever is beneath Blackvale Farm, it's spreading. Every whisper, every scream, every drop of blood it takes only makes it stronger. And now that I've seen it, I can feel it. It's in my dreams, in my mind, crawling under my skin. I think it's following me. The harvest has begun, and we're all part of the crop.